This lecture, we're discussing about the thermodynamic diagrams. Am I audible? Am I visible? Is my screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So we were discussing about the thermodynamic diagrams, and we mentioned that the thermodynamic diagrams are very, very useful in representing the state of the atmosphere. When we take the observations of temperature, say humidity or wind by the radio sound or the vertical profiles of the atmosphere, then we can plot those vertical profiles on the thermodynamic diagrams and analyze them to get many characteristics of the atmosphere, right? We were discussing about the T5 gram. I was trying to introduce to you in the last class about the T5 gram. We shall discuss about the basis of these thermodynamic diagrams later on. Let me now, first of all, complete the introduction of the T5 gram, which I was trying to explain to you day before yesterday. Okay, because this is one of the most popular diagram which are used very widely by the meteorologists in the old days. Now, every day when the observations were taken by the radio sound, then manually the observations were plotted on the diagram every day, 2 times a day, when the observations were taken. Nowadays, of course, everything is computerized, so they are plotted by the computer. But it is important to know what this diagram is, how this diagram looks like, what are the different lines in these diagrams that represent. And last time I showed you this diagram, which was not very clear, was a bit dim. I was trying to introduce to you the different lines on this diagram, right? You remember this diagram I was trying to show you last time?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no? Yes. And if you can
Yes, sir.
remember, I was trying to explain to you that so many informations are contained in these diagrams, a variety of informations. These different lines are representing different atmospheric properties. Like these slant lines are the isobars. These slant lines are the isobars. And starting from say 1050, 1000, and so on, now it goes on, and it goes on up to 150 millibar, okay, or so. Uh, Different pressure levels in the vertical, and then these are the isotherms. That means on the x-axis you have the isotherms. Okay, x-axis on the isotherms. Then these are the dry adiabatic. The horizontal lines are the dry adiabatic. Okay, that is the lines of equal potential temperature. Dry adiabatic. Okay, lines of equal potential temperature. So you can see that the isotherm and the dry adiabatic are perpendicular to each other, and this is very important because if they are wide apart, then the profile of the atmosphere that you plot, that will be zoomed, magnified, and seen properly. Okay, so this is very one of the important criterias of the thermodynamic diagrams, that the dry adiabates and the isotherms are as widely separated as possible. Okay, and here in this case it is 90-degree perpendicular to each other. Okay, then you can see these dotted lines, these dashed lines, and these are the lines of equal mixing ratio. These lines are the lines of equal mixing ratio. You can also see on this diagram there are curved lines, thin curved lines, like this one, like this one. Okay, so it's filled up with so many thin curved lines, all these thin curved lines. And these thin curved lines represent the moist adiabate, moist adiabate. Okay, so we were discussing about these things last time. I just repeated it for your convenience. Okay, and I was trying to have discussed this diagram also last time. Okay, for example, as you can see in this diagram, same thing. These lines are the isobars. I discussed in previous slide. They are the isobars. Okay, these horizontal lines are the dry adiabates. These curved lines are the saturated adiabates. And this is one of the example of a temperature profile plotted on a T5 So this is T1 temperature, T2 temperature at different levels because these are the isobaric levels. So these are this pressure level, which is or 1000 millibar, the temperature, observed temperature, let's say is T1. Then above that, maybe about 950 millibar, the temperature is T2, and so on. Okay, T4. So this diagram is indicating that in the lowest layer of the atmosphere, between these two isobaric levels, the rate of change of temperature with height is very, very steep. See how rapidly the temperature is decreasing in this layer of the atmosphere, isn't it? And so this is called the super adiabatic. The lapse rate in this layer, lowest layer of the atmosphere is seen to be super adiabatic on that particular day. Okay, on that particular day, because it will depend on day to day, right? And for that place, so the lapse rate is super adiabatic. Okay, then from that layer, above that layer, the temperature decreases slightly slowly compared to the lower level, T2 to T3. Okay, and then further it slows down if you go above. Okay, decrease of temperature further slows down. So these are the things which you can see, and these are the temperatures observed by the radiosonde. You can similarly plot the dew point temperature or the wet bulb temperature, which is observed by the radiosonde, also in the same diagram. And you will always find that the dew point temperature is supposed to be less than the dry bulb temperature, always, right? Because when they are equal, when the dew point temperature and the dry bulb temperature are equal, that means what? That means the atmosphere is saturated. When the two temperatures are equal, dry bulb and wet bulb are equal, that means they are saturated. And since the atmosphere is not saturated everywhere, maybe in some thin layers, it is saturated. So the dry bulb temperature is always greater than the dew point temperature. Okay, I'm just using the two temperatures synonymously because they are almost the same, whether you call it dew point temperature or the wet bulb temperature, right? So we discussed all these things in previous class. Okay, so the black curve represented by T1, T2, T3, T4 are typical temperature profile from a sounding. Sounding means, what is meant by sounding? What is meant by
Hello, sir.
sounding? Yeah, what is meant by sounding? Temperature profile from a sounding. What does it mean by sounding? Hmm? Nobody knows? We had discussed this last time. Sounding, right? Radio sound. The profiles obtained by radio sound observation are called soundings. Okay. You must have heard about sounder. Have you heard about the sounder? Hmm? Yes or no? Am I
No, sir.
audible?
No, sir.
No? Well,
Yes, sir.
actually, in the satellite, sensors are fitted, right? Sensors are fitted to observe the atmospheric properties, right? And those sensors which measure the vertical profiles of the atmosphere from above the atmosphere, because satellites are above the atmosphere, right? Satellites are above the atmosphere. So those sensors are called sounders. Sounders, that means you are looking from the top of the atmosphere from satellite. We are looking at the atmosphere from the top through a satellite. So they're called sounder, vertical sounder. For example, INSAT 3DR, INSAT 3DR, which is the geostationary satellite of ISRO, right? What about that? INSAT 3DR? Yes or
Yes, sir.
no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The INSAT 3DR is fitted with a sounder, vertical sounder. See, not all the geostationary satellites have the vertical sounder. You know that because different satellites are launched for different purposes, right? And the previous versions of the INSAT 3DR, like INSAT 1D or INSAT 2D or even INSAT 3D, they didn't have the vertical sounder. They were just measuring the image, okay, image of the clouds, for example, from different channels, right? Like the visible channel, the infrared channel, and so many other things, okay? But they did not have the vertical sounder. And so the older versions of the INSAT did not measure the vertical profiles of the atmosphere, okay, sounder. So sounders are those which look at the atmosphere from the top, okay, whereas radio sound measures the profile from the bottom upwards because you are launching the radio sound balloon from the earth, isn't it, from a ground station, right? So the radio sound balloon, as it ascends, as the balloon rises up, it will start measuring the profiles of the atmosphere from bottom to the top as it goes high and high and high, right? So this is called sounding. Okay, the one which is measured from the bottom and to the top is sounding, and that's by radio sound. Whereas the one which is measured from the top to bottom by satellite is sounder. Okay, so this is sounding. Okay, this is the sounding. So these are the profiles of temperature obtained from a sounding. Okay, from the radio sound. There are also drop sounds. Have you heard about the drop sound? Just like the radio sound, there are drop sounds. Have you heard about that? Yes or no?
No, sir.
No,
No.
sir.
Okay, just like the
No,
drop
sir.
sounds are, yeah, drop sounds are opposite to the radio sound. Drop sounds are opposite to the radio sound, meaning the radio sound we launch by tying the instrument in the balloon from the ground, right? Whereas in the drop sounds, we fly on an aircraft and then drop the sound from the aircraft. Okay, we carry the instrument in an aircraft and then drop the instrument from the aircraft, which is tied to a parachute. The instrument, the radio sound, is tied to a parachute and is dropped from the aircraft. So as it falls down through the atmosphere, it starts measuring the profile. It starts measuring the profile of the atmosphere. So that's called drop sound because it is dropped from an aircraft. Okay. Generally, we use these drop sounds during the cyclone. Of course, not in India. We are trying for many years now to do this. But we have not yet done. But on, say, Atlantic, US, for example, the Atlantic, the cyclones are called what? You know that? The Atlantic Ocean, what is the name of cyclone? What do they call cyclone?
Hurricanes.
Hurricanes.
Hurricane, yes, exactly. Hurricane. Every year they have so many hurricanes. Actually, they have more hurricanes than we have cyclones here in the Bay of Bengal or Arabian Sea. The number of cyclones that we have per year, I mean, if we really count them, we have got two cyclone season that you may be knowing. One is during the pre-monsoon season around April, May, before the monsoon, is one cyclone season, and then the other is the post-monsoon season, November, December, or October, November, December. Okay, so if you count the total number of cyclones during the pre-monsoon and post-monsoon season, it is far less than the number of hurricanes that form over the Atlantic Ocean. And over the Pacific Ocean, what are they called? Over the Pacific Ocean?
Typhoons.
Typhoon, exactly, typhoon. So, for example, over Australia, over Japan, okay, Indonesia, Philippines, they're all in the Pacific Ocean, right? Or the west coast of USA, right? Of course, the typhoon doesn't go toward the west coast of USA because of so many other factors. It goes towards, rather, it hits the Japanese peninsula, Japanese coast, or it hits Taiwan, Philippines, etc. No, more frequently, the typhoons. So the US people, whenever there is a hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean, they have so many. What is that? Yeah. So somebody is asking something. Who is asking something? Hello? Can you hear me? Did anyone ask something? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I thought somebody asked me some question. Okay, fine. So I was saying that now on the Atlantic Ocean, east coast of USA, like Florida, or all the Caribbean islands, Cuba, Gulf of Mexico, all those eastern coast of USA. Whenever there is a hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean, then there are so many reconnaissance flight. The U.S. Weather Bureau, as well as U.S. Air Force, and also some specialized agencies like some of the NOAA, of course. The U.S. Weather Bureau is under the NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, just like sister organization of NASA. Okay. So NOAA has got so many aircrafts, reconnaissance aircrafts, and also some of the big centers like NCAR, National Center for Atmospheric Research, USA. They have their own aircrafts, and US Air Force, of course. So they all, they already have planned every year that we will take these many reconnaissance flights. So whenever there is a hurricane, they will take off. The aircraft will take off from some base, okay, from some airport, and then carry the drop zones with them, and then go and fly above the hurricane, and then drop the zones from there. So that as this drop zone falls down or descends through the atmosphere, then it measures the profiles of the atmosphere, temperature, humidity, or wind, etc., etc. Okay, and that is a regular business. They do it regularly, and by doing that, why they do that? Because by inserting the data profile, atmospheric profile data in the cyclone or in the hurricane, they immediately transmit the data to the nearest NWP center. Okay, the weather forecasting center, which uses that data or assimilates the data into the model and then forecast the track of the hurricane. So by doing that, they have proved that the forecast quality improves quite a lot. Okay, and similarly, we also are planning that we should also do that for the cyclones that form over the Bay of Bengal, but somehow still not complete. That we have not done that. Okay, so this is the sounding profile. Okay, T1, T2, T3, T4 sounding profile obtained from a radio sound. Okay, the dotted slopes lines, we have discussed these things last time. Okay, so from left to right, isobaric levels already discussed. Okay, these are the dry debate, etc. Okay, we move forward. The portion T1 to T2 of the black curve represents superradiative collapse. Those also we have discussed. The portion T2 to T3, the curve slopes upward relative to the dry debate. Okay, lapse rate is less than the dry adiabatic. So in this layer, lapse rate is less than the dry adiabatic, but exceeds the saturated adiabatic lapse rate. In this layer, the lapse rate is less than the dry adiabatic, but more than the saturated adiabatic lapse rate. Whereas in this layer, the lapse rate is more than the dry adiabatic lapse rate, and so it's called the super adiabatic lapse rate. Okay. For the portion T3 to T4 of the curve, lapse rate is less than the super saturated adiabatic lapse rate. And these are the saturated adiabates. These are the saturated adiabates. Okay. So these are the different characteristics with the T5 gram is giving us. Okay. And last time we also were discussing, I think we have discussed this diagram earlier also. I'm just trying to repeat because these things are very important for you to know. I mean, if you were here in the university, I would have given you the print of these diagrams and asked you to do some exercise. But that is a problem because now you are not here. So I'll try to see how you can do the exercise by sitting at your home after completing this lecture. Okay. So here we had discussed last time, like from this diagram we can compute the energy required to lift a parcel of air to the level of so-called free convection, so that from there onwards no more energy has to be given externally, but the parcel automatically has its own energy to go up because it will find itself buoyant in the surrounding air. Because now if the atmosphere is unstable, we shall discuss about those things later on also. Okay, so air mass at temperature T1, okay, first ascends with a dry adiabatic lapse because this is dry, the air mass is not saturated at this point. Okay, and so from this point onwards, as it goes up by some external force, which can be convection, which can be mechanical lifting because of the presence of a topography, hill, slope, etc. When it is lifted mechanically or through convection, then because it is dry, so it will lose its temperature at the rate of dry adiabatic lapse rate. And as it comes here, okay, from there onward, because this is supposed to be the level of lifting condensation level. Condensation is there. So the lifting condensation level is here in this case. It further rises with a saturated adiabatic lapse rate. And as you can see, from here onwards, after TP2, from this point onwards, this line is following these curved lines. You see these curved lines I explained to you earlier. These curved lines are supposed to be the moist adiabate or saturated adiabates, right? All these curved lines. So once it gets saturated, because this is the lifting condensation level, the condensation has started taking place from there, this level onwards. Air has got saturated. So from there onwards, it will lose the temperature at the rate of saturated adiabatic lapse rate. And that means these following this curve, it will follow this curve. Okay. This is the saturated adiabatic lapse rate. Okay, it will lose the temperature at this rate. And eventually, see, this is the temperature profile observed by the radiosonde T1, T2, T3, okay, T4. This is the temperature profile observed by the radiosonde. That means this is the air temperature actually. This is the actual air temperature. This T1, T2, T3, T4 are what? Actual air temperature measured by the radiosonde. Okay. Whereas this is the temperature of the parcel. This profile is representing the temperature of the parcel of air parcel. Okay. And initially, as I said, is losing temperature at the rate of dry adiabatic lapse rate and then moist adiabatic lapse rate. Okay. And keeps on rising because it finds itself buoyant, warmer. It finds itself warmer than the surrounding air. This is the surrounding air temperature. Okay. And this is the temperature of the air parcel. So this air parcel is finding itself warmer than the surrounding air. Right. So these are the isotherms, right? These vertical lines are isotherms. Right. As I told you earlier, vertical lines are isotherms. So this air parcel is finding itself warmer than the surrounding air. Okay, the surrounding air temperature. So it will keep rising up till these two lines cross each other at this point E. Okay, the two lines cross each other at this point E. So this point is called the level of neutral buoyancy because both the temperatures are equal. The air parcel temperature of the air parcel is same as the surrounding air. So from there onwards, there is no more buoyancy. The parcel will not be buoyant and it cannot rise further high. Right? And therefore, the base of the cloud base will be somewhere here at the lifting condensation level, and the top of the cloud will be somewhere there at this cross section, at this crossing point. So this is the depth of the cloud. This will be the depth of the convective cloud because this has formed because of the convective process. Convection. Convection has carried this air parcel from here to there. Right? Atmosphere is unstable. It's called convectively unstable. I'll discuss these things again later on in detail, all these things. So this is the convective cloud formed because of the convective instability present in the atmosphere, by which the base of the cloud is here and the top of the cloud is here. So this is the depth of the cloud. Okay, you can measure the depth, how much deeper is the cloud, because you know the pressure at the base here. This is the pressure at the base, right? And this is the pressure at the top. Okay, these are the isobars, as you have seen. These slant lines are the isobars, right? These slant straight lines are the isobars. So you know what is the pressure at the base of the cloud and what is the pressure at the top of the cloud. So you can find out what is the depth of the cloud, right? So many things. I mean, there are many more things which we get from the diagram. Okay, so point E is the level of neutral buoyancy, already explained. Okay, it is a deep spontaneous development of convection from the surface to the LNB. What is LNB? The level of neutral buoyancy. LNB is the level of neutral buoyancy, and in this case it is 330 millibar. Okay, if you look at this pressure isobar, you'll see that this pressure level is about 330 millibar, approximately 9 kilometers above the ground. Approximately 9 kilometers above the ground. Okay, and this may be about how much? 800 millibar, maybe about 1 kilometer above the ground. So the depth of the cloud approximately is 8 kilometers. This is the depth of the cloud, 8 kilometers in this case. Okay. This evolution is due to the super adiabatic lapse rate in the layer between the surface and 800 millibar. Surface and the 800 millibar super adiabatic lapse rate here. Okay, in the layer between the surface and the cloud column extends from 860. Yeah, this is 860 exactly to be precise. This level is 860 millibar. 860 millibar is approximately 1.5 kilometer above the ground. Okay, up to the point E. Okay, so the area PQRS, PQRS, this is the area. Okay, this area PQRS is equal to area PDCS, PDCS, this area, and this area is equal to, which is equal to PDBA, PDBA. Okay, so the total area between these two lines are the total energy which is hidden or latent in the atmosphere. Okay, the total area under this curve, these two curves are the latent energy or the hidden energy in the atmosphere, which is released as the parcel reaches the level of free convection. Okay, and then this energy takes the parcel of air now above in the atmosphere. So energy released is equal to area between the curves from the point T1 to E. Okay, well, actually this area, I mean, up to this, the area up to this is the energy which is required to push the parcel up. As I said, now this energy has to be there by some means, either by convection or mechanical lifting. If there is energy is missing That means parcel cannot go up to this level. And if it cannot go up to this level, then it will not be able to extract or enjoy or get the energy which is hidden here. In order to get the energy hidden here by the parcel, it has to be somehow lifted from here to here. So sometimes you will see that there are many types of atmospheric profiles now. When you take the observations from radiosonde, many types of profiles you will find. So sometimes these profiles are such that the area within this curve is larger than the area in this curve, within this curve above. That means the energy hidden in the atmosphere is less than compared to the energy required to push the parcel to the level of free convection. And in that case, it cannot go because it requires so much of energy which is not available, either through convection or through the mechanical process. And so the atmosphere will remain stable. That is the case of a stable situation. Okay. And so no clouds will form in that case. The atmosphere will be dry, clean, sunny day, etc. Right? What is the mixing ratio at the surface? And also, could you locate on this diagram the wet bulb and dew point temperature? Well, all these things are there. Okay, in the exercise, you will learn all the things. From these lines, you can find out what is the mixing ratio, because I explained to you that these are the mixing ratio lines, dotted dashed lines. I think no, this slanted lines are not visible, but in the previous diagram, I had made it bold to make you see that mixing ratio lines. So from there, from the mixing ratio lines, at any level, you can see what is the mixing ratio of the parcel of air. At any level. And also you can find out the mixing ratio of the surrounding air. You can find out both the things. What is the mixing ratio of the air parcel and what is the mixing ratio of the surrounding air. Both things you can find out. Because as you see, if you recall the previous slide, I explained to you the mixing ratio lines. Okay. Mixing ratio lines, right? So, and also the dew point temperature, etc. Okay. So, okay. Now, before we go for exercise, okay. Well, I think I'll try to discuss something more because we have not discussed yet. The basis of this diagram. Okay, the T5gram, for example, and there are many types of thermodynamic diagrams, by the way. There are many types of thermodynamic diagrams. Am I audible to you clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, there are many types of thermodynamic diagrams. This diagram which we have discussed so far is called the T5gram, right? It's called the T5gram. And we discussed this diagram in detail because this is one of the most popular one. Okay. But there are many other types of diagrams also, like we shall discuss those things also here. Like they are called imagram, okay, SQT log P diagram, STV diagram, and so on. Okay, so those diagrams also we shall discuss briefly, and the basis for the entire thermodynamic diagram. Because what we are trying to do is represent the state of a parcel through the thermodynamic diagram. Okay. And if you recall, in one of the previous lectures, we were just trying to depict on a graph in which pressure was plotted on the y-axis and volume was plotted on the x-axis, P and alpha, right? And we're discussing those things because we're trying to explain to you that those Boyle's law, the Charles law, the Joule's law, etc., that at a constant pressure, if we expand the air, the volume increases, or at a constant temperature, if you expand the volume, then all those properties, etc., we have discussed earlier. So, in that context, we were discussing that we can characterize or depict those things on a diagram in which we have got P and alpha. Okay. So, as you know from the equation of state, which is P alpha equal to RT, right? PV equal to RT. So, that is the equation of state. So from the equation of a state, basically what you are getting is the state of the air parcel or characteristics of the air parcel, property of the air parcel. Okay, and earlier we were trying to depict those characteristics by simply plotting on a pressure volume diagram, P alpha diagram, right? But now we are trying to depict the same things in various ways by not just plotting simple ordinary pressure and volume, but on a distorted pressure or a skewed pressure. Okay, and instead of volume, we are trying to depict on the temperature, like the x-axis is the temperature line, isotherms, which are vertical, etc., etc. So when we are trying to represent the air parcel from a P alpha diagram onto a different diagram, then in that case, we have to ensure that the area confined between the P alpha diagram of a air parcel is same as that of the area which is confined on the pressure temperature diagram, or log P temperature diagram, or STV diagram, or emagram, SQT log P diagram, or diagram, etc., etc. And this is what we shall discuss now shortly, maybe today, possible if time permits. But let's quickly see some more examples here, the real examples. So far, so we are just discussing the illustrations, right? Through some illustration cartoon diagrams. But now let's see some real examples. Say, for example, now this is a real profile of the temperature and dew point temperature. Now at Delhi, during a dust storm, okay, during a thunderstorm and dust storm, the observations taken by radiosonde at New Delhi, okay, this is New Delhi. Here, now you may be knowing, or you will study later, that every meteorological station all around the world, they are assigned a ID, station ID, okay. Those things we shall discuss later on, maybe in some other semester, those things we will discuss. Every meteorological stations are assigned a ID. From that ID, we recognize where is this station, which station is it, from which country is this, etc. So generally, for example, this 42182 is a station ID of New Delhi. Is a station ID of New Delhi, okay. And this first two letter is the block, 42 block. So all the stations of India are in 42 and 43 blocks. So whenever the first two digits are 42 or 43, we immediately know that these observations are from India. Okay, and 182 is the ID of New Delhi station. So 428182 is the New Delhi station ID, and this is the typical radiosonde observation taken at New Delhi on 2nd of May 2018, 12 GMT. At 12 GMT, that is 5:30 in the evening on 2nd of May 2018. And on that day, there was a severe thunderstorm, dust storm over Delhi. So the atmosphere was very, very unstable. It was very, very unstable. Okay. And this is what you are seeing, a T5 gram in a slightly different orientation. For our convenience, we just try to orient the diagrams in a different way. But since I have explained to you what those lines are, so you will immediately know. Earlier, I was telling you that the isobars were slightly slanted in the previous diagram. Here, isobars are like these are the horizontal lines. These are the isobars, right? Starting from 1000 millibar, 900 millibar, and so on up to 100 millibar. These are the isobars, isobaric levels. And they are the isotherms, okay, 0 to 40 on the side and 0 to minus 40 on this side, okay, isotherms. This is the temperature profile measured by the radiosonde at New Delhi on 2nd of May 2018. And this is the dew point temperature. This is the dew point temperature measured by the radiosonde on the same day, okay. and this is plotted on a T5gram. Actually, one good thing is that the University of Wyoming in USA, the University of Wyoming in USA has been archiving all the observations of radiosonde for all the countries for last many years. They have got a very good archive of the radiosonde observation. I mean, sometimes it's very irony that if we want the observations of radiosonde from India, we have to go to IMD, request IMD. But the time they take to give you the observation is quite a lot, because there are so many procedures to be followed by because government. IMD is a government agency. Whereas the same observations you can easily find directly on the website of University of Wyoming. Very interesting thing. So the University of Wyoming has done a great job by archiving all the observations of all the stations throughout the world for last many years, almost like 30, 40, 50 years or so. So any past data, if you want to extract, just go to the website of the university and you can get the website data. And they are available in all forms, digital form as well as in graphical forms. Okay. So, and these diagrams, these lines already has been introduced to. These curve lines are the moist adiabate. Okay, these curve lines are the moist adiabate. Okay, these are the mixing ratio lines. The gas lines are the mixing ratio lines. Once I've explained to you, I've taken so much of time to explain to you in detail, because henceforth, in whatever form or orientation you will see a diagram, you will recognize which line corresponds to what. Okay, is this diagram clear to you? Is this clearly visible to you? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, this is much clear. Yeah, this is much clearer than the previous diagram, right? But you can recognize easily, even though its orientation is different from the previous diagram, you can easily recognize that what each of these lines represent. Because once you have understood what the lines of the diagram are, then in whatever orientation it is, you can recognize that what those lines represent. And for example, these curve lines are the saturated adiabates. Okay, these horizontal lines. These are the quote the pressure. They are pressure lines, but the theta lines, the dry adiabates, are also supposed to be similar. Okay, the dry adiabates also supposed to be horizontal. Is not marked here, but it is supposed to be horizontal. And the slanted dash lines are the mixing ratio lines. Okay, the central mixing ratio lines. And here, these things indicate the wind speed and the wind direction in the vertical. Okay, variation of wind speed and direction in the vertical attitudinally on this day. So, do you know what these winds mean? These are the wind bobs. Has anybody discussed in any of the class, in this semester to you or not?
No, sir, not yet.
No, not yet. Okay.
No, sir.
You will be taught in some of the classes that how we represent or how we plot the winds in the charts, on the meteorological charts, how the winds are plotted. For example, the winds are plotted by this wind barbs. They're called the wind barbs. Okay. And these lines, which are you see here, there are two lines here, right? This is a shaft. On this line, there are two perpendicular lines, right? And both the lines are equal here. But here, one line is half of this other line. Okay. Here, in this case, there is only one line. Okay. Here, there are four lines. Can you all see clearly these lines? Four lines, three lines, 2.5 lines. These 2.5 lines. Okay, there's only one line.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly. So each has a meaning. Each has a meaning. If there is only one line like this one, that means the wind speed is 10 knots. Wind speed is 10 knots. Okay. If there is one line, full line, and another half line, that means wind speed is 15 knots. Because one full line is 10 knots and a half line is 5 knots. So this is wind speed is 15 knots. There are 4 lines here, equal lines. So that means how much wind speed? How much wind speed?
40 knots.
40 knots, exactly, 40 knots. And you know what is the conversion between knots and meter per second? Knots is actually nautical miles. And nautical miles, this unit is generally used by the navigators on the ocean. In old days, the ship captains, when they used to sail on the ocean, they used to use this unit nautical miles. And from that day onwards, this tradition started and remained until today. The wind speeds are reported, although we nowadays, instruments measure it in the MKS unit, that is meter per second, right? The MKS unit of the wind speed is meter per second, but it is converted into knots for meteorological purpose and for coding purpose, because all the observations are coded as per the WMO standard. So for coding purpose, they are converted into knots, okay, and so also represented here. So these wind speeds are knots, not in meter per second. We can convert them, of course, and approximately 1 meter per second, approximately 1 meter per second is equal to 1.8 knots, roughly, let's say 2 knots. Okay, 1 meter per second is equal to 1.8 knots. That means roughly 2 knots. That means meter per second is double of the knot, right? So if there are 40 knots wind speed, approximately how many meter per second? How many meter per second? Just now I told you.
20.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, approximately 20 meter per second, right? 20 meter per second wind speed is quite a strong wind speed, isn't it? In terms of the kilometer per hour, if you just convert into kilometer per hour. So 20 meter per second is how many kilometer per hour? Approximately
80.
80, yeah. Approximately 80 kilometer per hour. Just imagine you are driving a car at a speed of 80 kilometer per hour. And if you bang, hit the car to some tree or somebody, what will happen to him? Smash completely, right? So that is the wind speed. And interestingly, now in the old days, this is how we used to estimate the winds by looking at the damage. And you probably will study in some course, maybe, or maybe you have to study yourself. Many things you will have to study yourself also. There are so many fundamental basic things which is not part of this, MSc syllabus. In some countries, this atmospheric science is also taught at BSc level. You know that. For example, in USA, there are many universities which offer BS atmospheric science at the BS level, right? In this entire South Asia, Nepal is the only country where atmospheric science or meteorology is offered at the BSc level. That is the only country in the entire South Asian region, not even in India. In India also, BSc atmospheric science is not available. There are some universities you will find BSc atmospheric science is written there, but that is generally not offered. Okay, BSc in atmospheric science, whereas BSc in geology is offered. Geology is there, and then geology people have some 1 paper, 2 papers sometimes as part of their syllabus for meteorology. But full-fledged BSc in atmospheric science is nowhere offered in India. Whereas in Nepal it is offered at BSc level, and for many years. This is awarded in Nepal from 1973 onwards. So very old department. So I was saying that these things, these fundamental things will not be covered as part of the syllabus in MSc level. While discussing, of course, just like I'm discussing with you today, some teachers might discuss, but you will have to learn many things by yourself by just reading the fundamental books, right? So I was saying that these are the wind speeds, and then I was just telling you the story that how in old days, when the ships used to sail in the ocean, and how people used to estimate the wind speed or in old days, say 300 years ago or 400 years ago, when there was hardly any development, hardly science was not developed much, there was no instrument, etc. Right? But yet, all these natural phenomena used to occur, always, right? For hundreds and thousands of years, all these natural phenomena used to occur. Cyclones used to occur, thunderstorms used to occur. So, how will they estimate what was the wind intensity of the thunderstorm? Suppose a severe big thunderstorm, a very severe thunderstorm hit some place and it blew the houses. In many places, and especially even today in West Bengal region, in Bihar, every year the poor people's houses, which are not very strong, kacha house, they call kacha house, is blown away. The roof is blown.
Hello.
Hello,
sir.
hello, sir.
Sir. Hello. Sir, you're not audible. Hello.
सर को फोन करो कोई.
Hello, hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Probably I was disconnected. I just went offline. In between, I just was disconnected. Are you all there, or you have just left? I see 12 or 11 people are there. I just got disconnected. So I'm back again. So am I now audible and visible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, you have to let me know if I'm completely lost or disappeared from the screen. That means I'm disconnected. Okay, you have to let me know. Sometimes I keep talking and I don't know even realize that I'm disconnected. Okay. So what was I saying? What was the last thing you heard from me? What was the last thing you heard from me? Hmm? Nobody says anything.
So back in 300 years, that
Okay.
voyage is filmed.
Yeah, long ago. So I was just trying to say that in those days, since instruments were not available, so people used to estimate the wind speed by looking at the damage caused by the winds. Okay. For example, when the wind speed is calm, zero knot, right? Then nothing is happening. And then after that, the wind starts blowing, say at 5 meter per second. 5 meter per second is quite high. That means 10 knots, right? 10 knots. So we will find that now the leaves have started now shaking. The leaves of the trees started shaking, and that is called the Beaufort scale. That is called the Beaufort scale of the wind, and you can see the Beaufort scale of the wind from any basic textbook, that how much damage is corresponding to how much meter per second, okay, of the wind speed. So I just for now out of the way, just for your information, I was just trying to explain to you these things. But anyway, I'll just take for a few more minutes and then I will stop here. So this was the wind speed, right? And then this way, these lines or shaft are represented. They indicate the direction of the wind. The way this shaft is drawn indicates the direction of the wind. For example, this is indicating, what is that?
Sir, your presentation is not visible.
Oh, my presentation is
Where are
visible.
we? So yeah, it comes to the percentage.
Okay, maybe so. I have to once again share. Yeah, looks like I have to share once again. Oh, I see. The entire screen. Okay. Just for a few minutes now. I thought, let me complete this whole thing. Is this visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was disconnected, so everything had to be started afresh. So, come here. Okay. So, as you can see now in these plots, these barbs indicate the wind speed, whereas this line, this shaft, we call it shaft, that indicates the wind direction. Okay, this indicates the wind direction. So this means the wind is coming from this side. If we are drawing the wind barbs on this end, that means the wind speed is coming from this side. Okay, wind is coming from this side. So what is this wind called? Can you say? If the wind is blowing from this side, what is this wind?
Westerly,
Western, northwesterly rather, because
northwesterly. Yes.
northwesterly, right? Because if you just draw a cross here and centering at this point, two lines representing east, west, and north, south, then this will fall into the northwest quadrant, right? So the wind is northwesterly here. Okay. Now here, look at the bar. Bar is plotted at this end. So that means wind is coming from here. Wind is coming from here. So what does it mean? Which direction?
Southwest.
Northeast.
No. This is north, this is east.
Northeast. Northeasterly.
Exactly, northeasterly. So this is northeasterly wind. That means in the lower level of the atmosphere. Now this is, see, it's just a straight line. And there is no barb here on this line. That means what? Wind is hardly measurable, almost calm. If you go a little bit up, these are the surface. You go a little bit up, say at 900 millibar approximately, or 950 millibar, then very feeble wind, very weak wind is there, and the wind direction is like this, going from like this. That means this is what direction? Going from here to there?
Southeasterly.
Yes, southeasterly. So at this level, at 900 millibar, the wind is southeasterly, and how much speed? How much speed?
5 knots.
Yes, 5 knots. 5 knots, exactly. If you go further high, say approximately at 850 millibar, now the wind direction has slightly changed, although still it is southeasterly, and wind speed is same. Further, if you go high, that means at about 850 millibar here, roughly, or 800 millibar, then wind direction has changed now to northeasterly, 5 knots. If you go further high, say at 700 millibar, then wind direction I change now to south. I change almost like west northwesterly, west northwesterly is 10 knots. Further high, still west northwesterly 15 knots, and then so on, right? And if there is a triangle, there is only one triangle I can see here on the top at 100 millibar. If there is a triangle represented, that means it is 50 knots. One triangle is approximately is equal to 50 knots, right? So as you go up, wind speeds are quite high. So there is 50 plus 10, 60 plus 5, 65 knots wind. Okay, so this is how we represent the wind. Anyway, already 1:42, so we have to stop. Okay, so today we will stop and then we'll continue this tomorrow. Okay. I stop sharing the presentation. All right. And any question, anything to ask? I see Ayaz Khan now. Ayaz, tum kab aa gaye? Ayaz, are you there? Can you hear me? Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
I see some more people have come. So who were not present in the beginning? Who I missed in the beginning? किस का attendance नहीं हुआ?
Sir, I sir.
Sir, I was not present in the beginning, sir. I came a little bit late.
हाँ, तो तुम्हारा attendance, I mean, you try to come on time because everything is logged in. कितने बजे तुम आए, कितने बजे तुम चले गए, उस सब सारा record होता है. Okay, so come on time, Ayaz.
Okay,
And
okay, sir.
Vishal, yeah, Vishal, you have
Yes,
also joined later, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, last week नहीं थे ना तुम? You were not there last week, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so now you have come. शादी हो गया तुम्हारे घर में, शादी हुई था ना, कुछ बता रहे
Yes,
थे.
sir. कल वही sir.
Okay, so everything is over now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so try to be regular now onwards.
Yes, sir.
So fine. So I'll mark your attendance. Anybody else who is left? So ठीक है. So we stop here for today, and then everybody is supposed to acknowledge. Okay, when I spend time to upload your video of the lecture and then send you the mail, you are supposed to acknowledge the receipt. Okay, किसी ने acknowledge नहीं किया last day for yesterday का. All right, so I'll mail the lecture again for today later on. ठीक है, so we stop now. Okay, I will stop the recording also.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, any question?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.